Hey everyone, and we are live. This is Mustafaa Talks Tech, the digital marketing specialist and tech evangelist, coming at you again with another episode on the Mustafaa Talks Tech show. As advertised and broadcast, we have a very special guest coming on the show tonight who's going to share with us his history, the wealth of his knowledge in media, and transition to digital broadcasting now. Our special guest is Mr. Vernon Watson. If you're from Pensacola, I didn't introduce a stranger to you. You already know who Mr. Vernon Watson is. But for those who may not be familiar with Vernon Watson, who are streaming from elsewhere, I just wanted to give you some facts to let you know about why it's so important that I bring this man onto the platform that he may share, like we lost him, that he may share his history and his information with us. Looks like we may have lost him, so we'll give him a few minutes to try to get back on because this is a dynamic guest that we want to have on our show tonight. So, everyone that's out there, I hope that you are doing well. We're going to hang on for a second. Okay, there you go. He came back in. So, we have Mr. Vernon Watson coming to the Mustafaa Talks Tech platform tonight, this evening. And just want to give you some facts about his background so that as he comes on, you can appreciate him and what he has accomplished, and that he's literally a pioneer in Pensacola in media and broadcasting. So in 1992, he went live, started broadcasting from his home. The newspaper report said he had a 190-foot antenna up in the yard. So with his own resourcefulness, he started broadcasting right from his home. In 1999, he was the first television station, black, white, or other, to have his broadcast broadcasted online and streamed from the internet. I said he was the first television station in Pensacola to have his broadcast on the internet streaming as a television station, black or white. He recently broadcasted live the homegoing service for Miss Georgia Blackman, who was a staple and an icon in the city of Pensacola. He's always been there for the community, providing his services when needed, his media platform, and whatever else he can give back for the community. So at this time, I would like to bring Mr. Vernon Watson to the stage. Thank you. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well. How you doing this morning? This
I'm
afternoon?
doing, yes, sir. I'm doing fantastic. I am very, very thrilled and excited to have you on the platform as we talk. When I read that news journal article about you and Mr. Hill, it just dawned on me that these are two titans, two pioneers and innovators in our community. And for what I'm trying to do to advance the discussion of technology and innovation, that no one's more fitting to have that conversation for Pensacola between you and Mr. Hill. But I thank you for coming on to the show.
Oh, not a problem. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, sir. If you will, what we talk about on the show is tech and digital platforms and how that's going to be our future. And there's a statistic that says there's only 6 or 7% of Black people are involved in tech and digital.
Yeah.
And as you know, that the pandemic has sped up so many of these innovations that were a few years down the line, but now they're here right in our face.
Right.
So on this platform, I try to educate our community to know that these changes are in our face, and we have to get on board with this training and learn this technology and learn this information so that we don't get left behind as the world moves forward into a digital technology reality. So thank you again for coming on to the show. Before I brought you on, I was thinking about this fact. About 20 years ago, when we was doing the 10th anniversary of the Million Man March,
Mm-hmm.
and I did an interview on Mr. Hill's show, that I literally had to come out to 9 Mile Road. I literally had to come into the studio and do the interview that way. Whereas now, almost 20 years later, me and you are talking. You're in your home. I'm in my home. But technology has made it available where we can have this discussion where you don't have to leave your comfort. I don't have to leave my comfort. But we can still have that conversation. So I was just thinking about that. That's amazing. How in just 20 years such things has been made possible.
That's true. That is very true. And with COVID-19, when it came along, it really kind of advanced this kind of a technology because people couldn't leave home and they had to go home and work from home and everything. And so I tell you, it is amazing um, how this technology worked. And I can tell you what, it was probably one of the best things that ever happened if you ask me. Okay,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
because now you talking about not going into the studio, but the implication is far better than that. Okay, the
Yes, sir. Go
reason
ahead.
because now we don't have to hire. Okay, just for an example, 20 years ago, had I invited you on this show, right? You would have had to come
Hmm.
to my studio. Then
Hmm.
I would have to have you be sitting at a desk in front of a camera with people with cameras pointing at you, and it's a money saver really. And now you don't have to have staff.
Absolutely.
You don't have to
Absolutely.
lose your time coming there. For a 30-minute interview, hour interview, you got to leave home an hour early and then take another hour. So you
Hmm.
wrap up 3 hours trying to do a 30-minute interview. So this technology
Right.
is come a long, long ways. Okay, long, long ways.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And I'm glad
So,
because in my business it helps me because we can do when you own a, let's say, on a limited resource like we do, we always on limited resources.
hmm,
And so uh this tech if you embrace this technology, it is your best friend. It really is.
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, I don't have a broadcasting studio. I don't have a platform or knowledge. I'm just a regular guy sitting in my room through
Yeah,
technology. I'm streaming and I'm able to interview people all over the country.
right.
And it, technology has definitely made that
And then
possible.
and also you can broadcast to the whole world using this kind
Absolutely.
of technology. It used to
Absolutely.
be if you didn't have a TV station, you couldn't have broadcast nowhere. So,
Yeah.
but with
Yeah.
the social media and the internet, oh man, it changed the game.
Yeah, yeah. And as we go forward, I definitely want to swing back to that point as we talk about the future implications of black media because I think you can really give us some insight on that. I just want to go into the history of your beginning, if you will.
Okay.
I remember as a teenager, I was about maybe 14, 15, back in the 90s. And my introduction to Vernon Watson, WBQP, was 10 p.m. on Sunday nights. Louis Farrakhan was being broadcasted. At that age, I didn't know a Louis Farrakhan what. I never knew who he was. But at
Right.
that stage of my life, I was a very troubled young man, like many young men were then and now. I started drinking when I was 9, started doing all
Wow.
type of stuff. Everything kicked off at 9, and I went through a negative trajectory till I hit my head and hit rock bottom. But I remember on Sunday nights at 10 p.m., my mother would sit me in front of the TV and we would watch the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. And it
Hmm.
was your broadcast from 10 p.m. to about 12. That was Sunday nights. So
Right.
that was my introduction to Vernon Watson and the WBQP 12. That it was Sunday nights at 10, Louis Farrakhan night. So I just wanted to lead that into the history. If you will, just give us the history. What motivated you, inspired you to start this, and just take us through that history, if you will.
Okay. Well, I hadn't ever really thought about broadcasting. It wasn't even on my horizon until something get dropped in your lap and it just kind of happenstance kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That the reason I ended up with it. But let me tell you how I really got started with it. I like
Yes, sir. Go
most
ahead.
folks back in the '70s and in the '80s time frame, we would all had CB radios back then, and
Hmm.
one thing leads to another. When then you go from CB radio to ham radio, and I
Hmm.
was in the ham. I had my ham radio license, and I was in the ham radio. And somebody, and then also at the same time, I was going around town videoing. I had my own video service back then. Going
Okay.
videoing weddings and videoing events and stuff like that. Pretty
Hmm.
much what I'm doing today, but
Yes, sir.
um, And then when I got into the ham radio service, the amateur ham radio service, I heard about a thing they call a ham amateur TV service. Okay, I didn't know
Mhm.
about it until I got involved with ham radio. So I did my research on it. Well, when I did my research on it, I ran across this article called "Low Power Television," and I was,
Mhm.
when we didn't have Google back then, I had to research it, you know, as best
Yeah.
as I could. But I
Yes,
did
sir.
run across an article called "Low Power Television," and I was still thinking in my brain, I was thinking amateur ham TV,
Yes,
and
sir.
it talked about how the FCC had put in a service called low power television, and that you can, small businesses now can own television stations as well as
Mhm.
big business, as long as you can fit a channel into your area. And
Yes,
so
sir.
I was stupid enough not to believe that I couldn't do that. It really came on the channel. I said, let me see if I can do that. And so I applied, and once I learned the difference, it was a professional television service, and I said, I think I can do that. I had a lot of content already on VHS tapes, and I said,
Mhm.
well, that was my original motivation, just to show my VH, all the events around town, the stuff like Minister Farrakhan and stuff like
Mhm.
Black History stuff, and stuff like that I already had
Mhm.
on, and I just wanted an outlet to show it, and that's the reason I decided to on ham radio. But when I saw it was professional television, and it was something that I could afford to do, then I went and applied to do it. A lot of stuff involved with it, but
Mhm.
I decided I was going to try to do it. That was a challenge for me, really. And
Mhm.
they had basically, when I looked at it, they had three requirements. Okay, you say you had to
Mhm.
have, and all this you have to have before you can apply for the license. You have to have a facility, you have to have
Mhm.
a transmitter, and you have to have a studio, okay, to do it with, okay, and before you apply. Then, but even before that, you have to find out whether or not it's a can you fit a television station in this area. Remember back then, uh,
Mhm.
Mustafa, you only had three
Yeah.
channels. You had channel three,
Yeah.
channel five, and channel 10. And maybe
Yeah.
when the skip come in, you might get somebody else out of them. But
Yeah.
there's a reason why you had three, 5, and 10. Okay,
Mhm.
you couldn't, you don't have a 4, you don't have a 6, and
Yeah.
you didn't have a 9, or you didn't have anything like that. Well, there's a reason for that. Is because these TV stations has to, for interference reasons, they have to
Mhm.
stay 200 miles apart. Okay, and so
Mhm.
you couldn't have fit. Yeah, see, the nearest. I decided, well, when I did the engineering study, they said that,
Mhm.
well, you got a hole in there. You can fit a channel 12 in here. Okay, the only one
Mhm.
that fit in here would be a channel 12, because you got one channel 12 in New Orleans, 200 miles away, and you got one in Jacksonville. I mean, in Jackson, Mississippi, 200 miles away. And the other one's over in Jacksonville, another one down in Tampa, Florida. So none of
Mhm.
them touch. You can't touch each other because for interference purposes. But if you draw a map, if you draw that map all around, just like I said, you draw a map to the south, draw a map to the north, draw a map to the east, draw a map to the south, then
Yes.
in the big circles there, then you gotta have a hole in there,
Mhm.
and that's where there was a hole in there for me. So I drew my
Mhm.
circle in there, as long as I didn't touch those other circles, and I was
Mhm.
able to draw a circle in there so that I could have a cutout of station for me, and that's how I ended up getting channel 12, because uh, a lot of other channels wouldn't work because they would interfere with something else. So we decided on channel 12. That was the first challenge that I had. The next
Mhm.
challenge was is to uh, to apply for it. Well, I started this process back in probably 1988 or something like that, right?
Wow.
And
Okay.
then but the FCC, you can only apply if they hold what they call a window open, and they didn't have a window open. So
Mhm.
I did the engineering study on it. So the guy told me that my consultant engineer told me, said, well, we can do the study now, and we got to wait until they open the window. They didn't open the window until 19 late 1991, and
Wow. It's
so
almost
but
four
when they
years.
yeah, yeah. And then when they opened it in 1991, then we applied for it. But you got to understand, it was competition. Whoever else applied, you had to compete with them. I don't know
Hmm.
who all applied and how many I had to compete with. But anyway, I don't think probably anybody else, but I end up getting it. Okay, I end up getting that channel 12 in this area. So that's the reason I'm on the air today for that reason. Now I cheated. I had to cheat a little bit. I didn't cheat. I
Hmm.
took
Go ahead.
advantages of the loopholes that they had in the
Yeah.
law. Okay, remember I told
Yes,
you,
sir.
and they had three requirements you have to have. You have to have a
Hmm.
facility, a station, in other words, studio. You have to have
Hmm.
a tower, and you have to have a transmitter, stuff like that, right? Well, the catch was they didn't say where you have to have it at. They didn't say you couldn't have it in uh, in a residential area. They didn't
Come
say
on.
that. And
Come on.
so since I'm smart enough to know that, well, okay, I know they allowed me to have a ham radio tower, right? And so
Yes,
I
sir.
took the ham radio tower, and 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 also I couldn't with you couldn't without having FCC approval, and then plus being in the neighborhood too. We couldn't go up. You couldn't. The max you could go up to 200 feet without having FAA approval. So
Hmm.
I took my antenna up to 190 feet, right? All right. So I got that. Now ordered a transmitting antenna to put on top of it. Then I ordered believe it or not, Mustafa, I ordered a 10-watt transmitter. At that
Wow.
time, that a 10-watt transmitter, that was a $20,000 investment just for that transmitter itself back then.
Wow.
Okay.
Hmm.
And so I ordered it and ordered that transmitter. And then what I did was in order to satisfy the facility requirement, I had a 2.5 car garage. I just converted my garage into what I call a studio. I made my little studio here, one with my control room, and I had one with a little studio, that little one room studio where I can set up a camera and a little set
Hmm.
there and stuff like that. So all that satisfied. That's all the FCC. So if as long as you got those things done,
Right.
then we'll accept that. And so we had that done. We submitted the information, and then they came back and they gave me uh, uh, permit to go ahead and start broadcasting. And that's where we are today. And my motivation for broadcasting at that
Hmm.
time was to try to bring. Well, back then you didn't see any black folks on the air at all. Not no churches back then. You didn't see particular local stuff. You didn't see, and you saw a lot little folks, a little few black folks on BET on national television, but local television you didn't have
Hmm.
any black folks on. And then television was so expensive. Small businesses even couldn't afford to get on those networks. I mean, because they was ABC and CBS, and they was too expensive. So that gave me an opportunity to bring something to the community that the community can use, and that's how I ended up with Channel 12. There, I want to let you continue to ask your questions because I don't want to talk too much because you might have some questions
Oh,
that.
oh no, no, that was absolutely perfect. Just on the side, just a side question. I know we're in the digital age and internet.
Hmm.
Would that still be the same process today if someone wanted to get on traditional TV?
Yeah,
Would they
they
have to put
they still got this. Yeah, yeah. If you wanted to get a television station or radio station, what we call a terrestrial station, that's what you have to go through today. You still have to get the license and so forth. But Mustafa, that's a thing on the past. That can't go away. Why
Yeah.
would you need to buy all of the expensive equipment, go through
Hmm.
all FCC procedures, and then follow all their regulations? Well, with the internet, you can do the same thing now with the internet that you can do that the television did 20 years ago. So with internet and 5G and 6G and what coming up, stuff like that,
Yeah.
you can have your own TV station virtually. You can have a virtual radio station. You see a lot of internet TV stations and a lot of internet radio stations as well,
Hmm.
and they can reach more people because when you're licensed by the FCC, you license and you can only you reach is only so far. My reach is the general Pensacola, Milton, area because I can get. Even Channel 3, the most they can reach is Mobile and Fort Walton Beach. Outside of that is somebody else's territory. Well, with
Yeah,
the internet, with being online and everything, uh, we can reach the world. And that's what we did. And that's what we did in 1997 when we first got on the internet. I had to tell you that story. I didn't know what the internet was back then. I had a little young intern, a white boy. He was an intern. Go ahead. Okay.
yeah. But
He
before, we're gonna go into that as a separate question.
okay.
But I just
Okay.
yes, sir. Based on what you're saying, where pretty much anybody and everybody can get on the internet and start a platform, start a radio, start a television show or station. Uh, Based on your experience in the media, what implications do you think that has for the future of traditional, where the barriers have really been destroyed, where the entry is so easy now? What do you think the implication that is for traditional media or TV going forward in maybe the next 5, 10 years?
I think the traditional TV are going to follow suit, and you're seeing them follow suit right now. All of the major networks right now have streaming channels. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Hulu's and all those. They all associated in on all of the major networks. You can get their same programming now
Mm-hmm.
on their streaming platform. So I think in the future, traditional broadcasting is not going to be as relevant as it has been in the past. I think the thing is, if online presence is going to be probably more of a thing now.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get my mother. She's in her 70s. I'm trying to get her on board with this whole streaming because her cable bill is through the roof.
Yeah,
And I'm trying to explain to her how you can get a Roku stick or a Fire Stick, and you can a la carte where you can just buy the streaming app program that you want, and you can do that for $7 here, $10 there, and you can cut your cable bill. You can cut the cord, as they say. But
right.
she's still old school and it's kind of like, well, I don't know about that streaming or what the internet, there interferes. But I'm trying to get her on board that I cut my cord a long time ago and I'm straight
Yeah,
Roku. I got HBO Max, Hulu, Stars, Peacock, Paramount Plus, and that's how I watch my TV. I would not dare pay cable prices in this modern time when we got so much advancement.
I know it, and that's the challenge that we have with people in your mother's age and my age, because what they grew up with, they would grew up with looking at one television and sitting in front of it. If they want to see Dallas, they have to wait next week to see the next edition if they
Yeah,
missed it and stuff like that. And right
yeah,
now, right now we got television on demand. We ain't got
yeah,
time. Young folks ain't got time to sit there and wait another week.
yeah,
They can just go online and do it right now. So
yeah,
yeah, it's gonna be a challenge to bring them on board, but that's what
yeah,
they need to know. They need to understand that cable now is, and that was my one of my weak points is that back then, if you didn't have cable, everybody had cable, and so I wasn't that successful because I didn't have that what they call the must carry rights, and where the big station had must carry right, they was carried on all the cable systems and all this satellite system, but I wasn't. If I had to buy my way into it, if I had to be on there, I had to pay to release a channel on cable or release a channel on satellite, and so that was a real concern for me. But today, um, that is not the case anymore.
yes, sir. And let me see what I saw something that I read. And I was reading in the article. I'm just going to quote it, where it says
Okay.
not only does WBQP cover community events, which we discussed, but it's also an affiliate of the Griot, which is a network targeting African Americans, and features a variety of programming, including sitcoms, justice shows, talk shows, comedy programs, movies, news programs, and notably HBCU athletes. So, is that kind of connected to what you say, where you kind of where you didn't have cable before, but now you have this reach, or you can you kind of go into that?
Yeah, well, right now I got. Well, I want to take it back, okay, for a
Okay,
minute.
yes, sir.
When we first came on, and I think it's 1995. I don't know. You might be too young, uh, because most of the television stations, that successful television stations, they all have a network that they can get their programming from. Like, like Channel 3 got ABC, and Channel
Yeah,
5 got CBS,
yeah.
and and Fox. If Fox came on later, and then I believe ABC, CBS, NBC. Okay, those were the only four. Well, they came out with a fifth network in 1995 called the WB. I don't know, remember Warner Brothers,
Hmm.
called the
Hmm.
WB, and it had a lot of black programming on it. And
Yeah,
so
yes, it is.
I ended up being the first WB channel. Right now it's CW. It's called CW right now, and that's what it
Hmm.
evolved into. But
Hmm.
I was the first one to have the WB network, and in fact back then, back in 1995, they showed the OJ um,
Yeah.
programming, gavel to gavel. So we had a chance. Most network only had a little news clipping of it. We covered the
Hmm.
whole thing every day for
Wow.
that for the whole thing. But now I said that
Wow.
to say this. Okay, today I'm affiliated with the Griot Network, and I don't know whether you're familiar with Byron
Hmm.
Allen or not. You are familiar
Hmm.
with Byron Allen.
Yes, sir.
He the
Absolutely.
first black man that bought the Weather Channel. Then
Yes.
he ended up buying some other channel. He bought a channel called Light TV. Then he
Hmm.
changed Light TV into what he called the Griot TV, and put 24/7 black programming on it. Not only did he do that, but you remember when the Black News Channel got in trouble and they went bankrupt. He ended up buying the Black News Channel and incorporating that into his programming as well.
Right.
And so we got a great lineup, and plus now with the Grill channel, with all the other stuff, we have all the HBCU sports. The basketball, the football,
Hmm.
even it's all of the stuff that all the sports that the HBCU have. We carry that. People go to
Yeah.
they go to games like Alabama State Classic and stuff like that. Well, every
Yeah.
weekend we have those games on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes, sir. As I mentioned in the intro, that you hold the distinction and the title in Pensacola being the first television station to take that leap to the internet. And
Yeah.
before I go into the question of that, why that's so important, is because I read a book called That'll Never Work by Reed Hastings. And in the late 90s, going into 2000s, they had this idea for Netflix already. And they
Hmm.
went to Blockbuster and told them that this is going to be the future. This is how it's going to go. Your model is becoming outdated. And Mr. Reed Hastings said that the board directors or leadership told him that'll never work. This is where it's at. And long story short, we know that their idea was right. And eventually, Blockbuster, as their market share started tumbling and that old model started degenerating, they wanted to get on board with Netflix and do a brand deal. But Netflix told them, we don't need you no more. We needed you then, but we don't need you now. But
Right.
in Pensacola, you hold the distinction that before streaming and that's become commonplace and normal, that you were the first station, black, white, or other, to transition into the internet. So please take us into that. Tell us the history, the background, the thinking of it, because I think that's your distinction, that you did that before so many other got on board. So tell us about that, brother Watson.
Okay. We honestly we had a lot of firsts. We were the first, as far as TV stations concerned.
Yes,
We were
sir.
the first television station to have a website. Believe it or not,
Okay,
we
go
we
ahead.
the first one to have a website. No other station that had a website. We the first
Wow.
one that had what we call tower cams. They got them all on the beach and all that kind of stuff. Now we had that
Hmm.
back in 1995, 1996 time frame.
Wow.
I was kind of forced into stuff like that because I had to do something different than everybody else,
Yeah.
just to get noticed. And even when I did do it different, we still didn't get get the recognition that you really need for it. But I'm an innovator. I'm an innovator. I'm willing to try new stuff and stuff like that. and I know that that kind of stuff with the future. I was just a little bit ahead of myself, and
Mhm.
so forth. Going back to your point, your question about getting on the being on the internet. Well, when I when I first got a website, and I didn't know what a website was. I had a young intern came in to tell me that I need a website. Only I
Mhm.
just barely heard about the internet. He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "What is website? You need?" I said, "I don't need no website." He said, "Yeah, trust me, you need a website. Let me create you a website." So back
Mhm.
then, he created me a website. Then that kind of led to back then actually streaming on the internet. I found out that okay, not only do I have a website, I could actually was into the days of the days of you can actually stream, and that's what I had. I had my TV station on it. I put it on the internet using Real Player. Real Player was the only one that had the
Yeah. Yeah, I remember
technology
that.
back then.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what I wanted to do was I put it on my, so I was streaming my channel to my website, okay? And
Mhm.
then I found out there was some other companies out there just like me, but they was just like what you call a CDN now. They had their platforms out there, and then I went and seeked out those platforms and got on those platforms. And we actually got letters from around the world. In fact, Hill and I was just talking about that yesterday, and
Mhm.
we got back then we got email. I had AOL back then for
Mhm.
email, right? So we had
Yeah.
emails from people from around the world that actually seen our signal and were writing us from Turkey and down in Australia, place down in
That's what I
Africa.
said.
Yeah, and they wanted and
Mhm.
so they wanted to get some souvenirs from us, like a logo or something, a tag or something, that, so that we can send us. So that's how we knew that they was watching. They sent us an email requesting stuff and so
Yeah.
forth. Yeah, but it didn't generate any revenue. But it did generate that. It made a point that we can reach around the world. I didn't necessarily. That's something that Channel 3 couldn't do. That's something that the other stations couldn't do. In fact, and they didn't even have a website at that time to do it. But they found everything finally
Kind of
caught up
forgetting.
with them. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's how I ended up on the internet way back in 1998 time frame, 97 time frame, something like that. I can't. It's been so long I can't really remember, Mustafa. It's been so long.
Yeah.
Tony Williams, another good friend of mine, Tony Williams, and I was the
Mhm.
one that start tinkling with this stuff. And what we doing today, Tony and I did it back then. Okay, when they first came out with the cameras and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
but the only problem was that we just didn't have the internet bandwidth and stuff like that we're doing today. But we did it crudely. We sure did. So
Yeah.
but I always been on the cutting edge of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we was that still? Because I know we was going into broadband. Were you still on that dial up slash going into broadband at that stage?
Yeah, that was our problem. We was on dial up at that time, and then
Yeah.
finally we got broadband, which made everything a little bit better. That's when
Mhm.
we finally got the broadband. That was made it success for us to really to go on the internet to do the internet TV, because dial up, you had it only had it when you just like a telephone call. You dial up,
Yeah.
and when you hang
Yeah.
up, you just didn't have it no more. So when we had
Yeah.
just the broadband, then that made things a lot better. It was slow well, back then, everything it was cool. But
Yeah.
by today's standard, it's just like a rabbit chase, a turtle chasing a rabbit.
Yeah, I remember trying to download stuff on dial up, and I mean that time be 3 4 hours trying to download those big files, and
Yeah.
sometimes I would just go to sleep and hope that no phone call come in to interrupt the download, and the next morning it would be downloaded.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same thing. And not only that, if we were going from the analog world to the digital world, man, that was challenging because only thing to get anything converted from analog to digital, you had to render it back, what we call render it back then. Sometimes it took days just to render a 30-minute program, an hour program, depending on the
Mhm.
quality you wanted. But yeah, I
Yeah.
remember those days. I remember those days when we used to download the music, and it took, right now you download songs just like that from YouTube. But back then,
Whew.
when we had
Yeah.
those platforms, one song took you an hour to download.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. So leading into the next that as I say, I'm on Roku. I cut my cord a long time ago,
Okay.
and I was a few years ago. I was pleasantly surprised to find out that WBQP was on Roku.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was blown away. I was like, hold
Really?
on. I was like, so WBQP has an app. They have my Roku marketplace where I can download the app and stream them through my Roku stick. I
Right.
thought, you serious? I downloaded it and hit play, and it did what it did.
Yeah.
So your journey has just been from traditional media, starting your home, putting an antenna up, to being an innovator. You transitioned to internet in the late '90s, and now where more people are having these Roku sticks and Fire sticks, and as you say, we're having more of the apps and the streaming, where
Right.
we're seeing that complete journey where WBQP has been on that whole trajectory from traditional to internet streaming to now TV streaming with the Roku and Fire Stick. What as you said, you always been on the cutting edge. How did you see like that was like another step that you should take to expand your reach as a
What?
broadcast?
Yeah. Well, I figured that one of the things, not being on cable was a challenge. Okay. And then you
Mm-hmm.
have to have folks, and then also being on the antenna is a challenge, because remember the days when you had cable, you only had one input to the TV set. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you either had that cable cord or you have an
Yeah.
antenna. It wasn't
Yep.
both; it's either or. And so
Mm-hmm.
as folks got cable, cable were coming more prominent. When I first got on the air, cable was just coming into its existence.
Yeah.
Then folk
Yeah.
was unplugging the antenna by that time and start plugging in the cable box. So, but if you didn't have an antenna, you couldn't see me, unless. Then I ended up leasing a cable channel, so that folks could see me during that time. But anyway, to with the what forced me back to it, Mustafa, is the fact that
Mm-hmm.
when cable, if you remember, at one time there was only one cable channel per market. Remember that we had Cox Cable in this area.
Yep.
No other competing, and there was,
That's
and
correct.
that's when I leased the channel on Cox. But then when they changed the rules, that cable
Mm-hmm.
now can have some competition. The
Mm-hmm.
satellite folks came in, and
Mm-hmm.
Dish TV, Direct TV, all those folks came in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then Cox started losing customers to those folks, and then that's, well, what do me? I'm paying all this money for Cox, and they don't have half the service they used to be. Now
Right.
folks going to the Dish, they're going to the Direct TV or Dish TV or one of those other platforms that they're using, and so I couldn't afford all of them. So I didn't. I decided I pulled off a Cox, so I couldn't afford. I can't afford any of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna afford. I can't afford one of them. I can't afford any of them. So therefore, then I was out on antenna again. But I knew being on antenna, it was a challenge, because folks had that damn, and I mean, had that cable line plugged into for cable, and so I had to
Yeah.
try to reach another. I had to find a way to reach, for folks to reach me other than cable, because they didn't have an antenna. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
I went the Roku route. Okay. And so, okay, well, Roku, well, people can
Mm-hmm.
see me. I can tell them that to pick me up on Roku. If you have an antenna, you can pick me up. But if you don't have an antenna, pick me up on Roku. Okay. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's how I ended up on Roku. And then one led to another, Roku, and then Fire Stick, and all those streaming platforms that we own. We have our own app, uh,
Mm-hmm.
mobile app, so which is great now, because when we were on Roku, guess what? You still was stuck to that television, right? You
Right.
had to be in front of that TV to even get Roku. So
Mhm.
where people moving today, we don't have time to sit down and look at no TV until we sit down and look at TV, But folks want to know what's going on right now. That's what led me
Mhm.
into getting the mobile app because now you can be anywhere in the world, download the app and be anywhere in the world, anytime, any place, because you got your phones and your tablets, and as technology increased, we had to go along with the flow. So, and that's where we are today. We're trying to keep up with the technology.
Yes, sir. And whatever the next innovation is, I know that WBQP will swing right into that, whatever comes behind this. If
Yeah.
you will, for someone that's listening who may be saying, hey, that's a great idea. I got something I want to put out there. What is
Mhm.
that process to get on Roku, transition to get an app and broadcast to Roku first?
Well,
If you
well,
take them through that.
well, actually, you can go online. This word called CDN, a
Mhm.
content network delivery. You can Google that. You got certain companies out there will you, but you have to pay them to put you on Roku. But
Mhm.
there, if you go on YouTube, there is a um, instruction to show you how to do your own Roku channel, if you will. It's on YouTube itself. If you want to go through all of the process of learning how to do that, and I think it's good for young people to innovate to do that if you got the time. But if you don't have the time and got a little money you want to pay a company to a fee every month, and that's not it's not very expensive at all. I got the more I learn, the cheaper I get. I paid folks as much as $400 and $500 a month, but there's a company out there now you can get them for 50 and $60 and $70 a month that can create
Wow.
you a Roku channel and keep you on
Wow.
as a Roku channel. In fact, one of the services I use for the radio station and the TV station is called BV Mobile Apps. Okay, BV Mobile Apps. They're out of Atlanta, Georgia. If you're
Mhm.
interested in putting your podcast on, or you're getting interested in getting a channel, a Roku channel, something like that, give them a call. They got plans. Some of them run. The most expensive plan a month they got is like $79, $80 a month. But they got plans like $49 a
Super.
month, $29 a month that get you on there for to get you started. So if you're
Wow.
interested in stuff like that, in particular, if you want to use those services I recommend, let me know and recommend me because they I can get a discount on mine when I hook somebody else up with them. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
And once the interview concludes, if you can text me that information
okay,
or how they can contact you, I'll put it in the comments and blast it out there so that that can be a gateway where some people can get in contact because as I say 20 something 30 something years ago this just wouldn't have been possible. I mean, unless you were
right,
trying to come out of pocket or you had a studio, you were not going to have your face going nationwide, let alone worldwide.
yeah,
But as our brother's saying that we're talking about, you can now get on Roku with your
hmm
podcast or your video show for how low? What's the lowest you said?
Uh,
As low as
probably low, probably about $50 a month. And you can approximately about $50 a month. You can get on Roku and all Fire Stick, and and that's just the way of the future now. That's just the way of the future. Everything is going to streaming. Once they broke
yeah,
that 5G barrier, where now that you don't have to thing don't have to buffer anymore and stuff like that, and now
yeah,
I think they're talking going from 5G to 11G or something like that. It just everything's just going to be
yeah,
instantaneously now, and
yeah.
and you can get on online, and so you don't have to worry about the old traditional stuff. You do like I know you're familiar with RWR radio, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
See,
Real
they
Winning
got
Radio.
they got a great presence on online and
Hmm.
having a great internet radio station. So that's what got that's the innovation now is not traditional television station, not traditional radio station because that's just old school stuff. Anybody interested in that kind of stuff now need to start thinking about if you want your own TV station or you want your own radio station, go streaming right now. Go ahead and get into it now where getting is good, if you will,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
start your own streaming service because that's what the future is. If you ask me, okay,
Hmm. Yeah. And I just want to just reiterate that again, that for who that may have went over their head, that he's saying, and we're saying that you can literally have your own broadcast. You can have your own platform. You can broadcast your own shows, your own podcast, your own local programming for at least $50 a month.
yeah,
And you can be on Roku. As Roku and Fire Sticks are universal platforms. People do Roku and Fire Stick.
yeah,
So you can literally have a platform and make your voice known and just really build yourself up, that you're not beholding to these media conglomerates like we once were 20 or
yeah.
30 years ago, that you can really step out there and make a name for yourself.
And,
You can utilize social media as a platform to just really blast yourself out there, as he's saying.
well, that is the starting step. Everybody is on social. All the folks are on social media, right? There's a little bit different between social media and those streaming platforms, but social media is your gateway. Okay,
Yeah.
everybody know how to broadcast on YouTube. Everybody know how to get on Facebook and put this stuff out on Facebook and TikTok. Well, you already there. The only
Yeah.
thing, but those are kind of free service for you. But if you want to more professionalize, if you want to get out there more, if you want to have your own, just the next step would be taking to a streaming platform, and
Hmm.
all of the think about this for a minute, okay? Not only
Go ahead.
this, you will see, TV, all TV brand manufacturers, okay? They got, if you buy any television, if you buy Sony, you buy Samsung, or you buy an LG, all of those televisions manufacturers have their own set of uh, what you call them? Yeah, man, just have the blank. Own set of
Smart.
no, what I'm talking about. Come on, now, I just had a apps,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
apps. Everybody got their own set of apps. Okay,
Yeah.
so and so you can go and you were talking about you getting your mama on there. Okay, tell her she really needs to cut the cable. Okay, what
Yeah.
she needs to do, Mustafaa, really, and get and if you want a lot of channels, don't depend on these inside antennas. Just get a small. It don't have to be a big antenna, but put a small outside antenna. Wherever you had that dish TV at, pull that dish
Hmm.
off there and use that same little platform. Put your antenna on there, and then run that because you already got cable. You already got your cable connection throughout the house already. Just wherever they was plugged in, where the dish TV was or where the cable TV was, outside, just plug your antenna into that. Then you got access to all rooms now. Okay. Not only that, then depending on what television set you got, right? Okay, we have 70 some channels available in our market. Okay, and the reason we have it is because in the digital world, television stations now can have multiple channels. They are not necessarily stuck with just one channel like we had back in the day. So
Hmm.
every TV station has multiple, from at least three or more channels. In fact,
You're right. Yeah.
WBQP has 10. We have 10 channels on our platform. Okay,
Wow.
and in this area, you get you an antenna, you can get about 70 channels. Okay, now when you do that, when you buy, and I'm just going to use Samsung for an example. Okay,
Go ahead.
Samsung has its own cable channels. I just want to call them cable channels. Okay, once you plug in your Samsung channel and scan everything, and once you get out of uh, I think 55 is the highest you can go on the antenna, right?
Hmm.
Then with a Samsung TV or an LG TV or Sony TV, once you set up your antenna, once you get outside of your own channel, then they automatically go into other cable channels. I mean, hundreds of cable channels that is free. Okay, that is free. That's even not including the apps they have on those televisions. So if you get a
Mm,
smart TV, you don't need to pay cable. I mean, people just waste. I know. You know, habit is habit is hard to die, and they don't want to. I had the same issue with my wife. She wanted,
mm,
but I want, I but I want to be able to look at my DVR. You know, the DVR. Well, but all those televisions, the only thing you got to do is buy a thumb drive or hard drive and stick in those televisions. Serves as a
okay.
DVR. So it just
Absolutely.
say what and you can still save all your program free. Right now, you're
Yep.
paying the cable company for your DVR. You paying them to look at free channels. That's free. These channels are free. It means all those channels are they over the air. What the cable company did, they stuck up an antenna. They sucked in those channels and reselling them back to you. You know. So all
Oh my God.
yeah, I mean,
My goodness.
so
Mm-mm.
if people were to do, but we stuck in the habit. Nobody wanted to unplug the TV. Nobody wanted to mess with the cable. Nobody wanted do that. But if you're smart, but 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 when reality hits you, when you start paying those $300, $400 and only looking at two or three channels,
Yeah.
you're gonna wake up and say, "Oh, I can get these channels for free." It ain't what you
Yeah.
do. It ain't what you know. It ain't what you do. It's how you do it. It ain't what
Yeah.
you know. Is you got to know stuff. You got to listen to stuff and listen to people to do that. And I'm hoping that, but I'm telling you now, that's a hard sell for folks my age. You know,
Well, what I'm gonna do? Cause I told she respects you a lot. She's from the old school. She remember you from the '90s, and I told her I was gonna interview you.
uh-huh.
And I'm just gonna find the minutes where that segment was. I'm gonna play that back. Like, this is a message from Vernon Watson to you. But when I mentioned to her that I was gonna interview, as
Hmm.
I said she remembers from the '90s, she was like, I got to get me how did she say? I got to get me a TV, because she's still thinking old school. She's trying to pull you up on channel 12 on the TV.
Hmm.
And I said, no, mom, he's on Roku now. She
Yeah.
said, Roku what? So she wants to watch you, but she's slow to transition to where you are now. So you on
Yeah.
Roku now, internet. You don't have to
Well,
buy a TV and put an antenna. Well,
well, Mustafa,
that's, that's
she could still use her same TV. You know, remember we talking about when back in the day you only had one input to that TV, only
hmm
one input to the back of it. Right now, even the cable company don't use that antenna input no more. They use HDMI, so the
Yep,
antenna input is still there. If she
that's
were
true.
to buy her an antenna to put it in there
Yeah.
and then scan the antenna, she and want to keep cable, she can do both if she wanted to do that.
That's true. That's true. I did that myself a couple of years ago, because with streaming at that time I didn't know how to get local stuff. So I went to
Yeah,
Family Dollar and bought one of those little $10 HD
yeah,
antennas, and I hooked it up to my TV, scanned it. I was watching Channel 3 news. I was watching a lot of
yeah.
local stuff, and I still had my streaming too. So you're right about that. That's a
Right.
good option.
And that's what I'm
I
saying. That's the only thing you have to do is all your local stuff is free anyway. Just get you an antenna, buy your local stuff, and then
hmm
on your other stuff, you go streaming on it, or like I said, TVs has their own. Every brand has their own channel, own sets of cable channels. That's free for you. Just free. You don't have to pay for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we are creeping up on an hour, man. It don't
Okay.
seem like it, and it's been a real good conversation. I don't want to wear you out, but I have one question. It's kind of multiple points to it, and I think it kind of sums up everything. And I
Okay.
think you're the perfect person to speak to it. Um, we have lost so much black media. As I read the article in the Pensacola News Journal, they went over just so many things that we had back in the day, from Pensacola Boys to WBOP to Les Humphreys. We had so much media where there was options, where now you and Mr. Hill are the last two men standing. So
Yeah.
since we have lost so much media, why is it important? It's kind of self-evident, but why is it important for us to have our own media? And how does digital platforms make it accessible for more to have their own black media going forward, where we can see more options, where instead of having one or two guys holding it down, where we can see just different variety of black media popping up and not have those restrictions.
Well, it is very important to have our own voice, Mustafa. Back in the day, you wouldn't no television station would have touched Farrakhan Speaks. Okay, I was the only
Yes,
one that
sir.
was willing to go out there and even play it. So, but we need to have our voices. Okay, our own voices. So, hopefully, it's you gotta we got a kind of a two-pronged problem with that is a secession plan that we need to have somebody to take over the television. When I'm passing on the scene, we need somebody younger to, and plus it would be my legacy. Somebody younger
Mm-hmm.
to keep the television station going. Same thing with Mr. Hill. We have to have a succession plan to have somebody there to keep the radio station, keep it in our community, keep it black owned. That was a difference a lot, except for the Pensacola Voice, the radio, and all those are black owned. Like the problem with WBOP radio, it wasn't black owned. Okay, and that
Mm-hmm.
was the reason. They went for 30 years. They were black formatted, but they wasn't black owned. And
Mm-hmm.
so when they had an opportunity to sell out to another company, they didn't ask a black person, "Do you want to continue this?" Okay, they just sold to the next person, and they went on about their business and just pulled the plug on it. So we were without a voice for a couple of years until Mr. Hill came in. So, but it is important. But this is the platform now, Mustafa, like you doing. What you're doing right now is very key to keeping things alive and keeping our voice in the community. The only thing you probably need to do is make sure that you expand this to some kind of streaming service as well,
Mm-hmm.
so that any and everybody around the world can get you, and so we can always have a voice. And as one thing about the internet, you're not restricted. We're broadcast folks. Certain things we
Mm-hmm.
can do and certain things we cannot do. Okay. Well, in the streaming world, that's not the case. You can do what you want to, say what you want to, and so forth. So it's not regulated, and that's the beauty of it. You better get into it now before the government start regulating it. Government gonna
Yeah, yeah.
regulate the internet now like they do the other stuff. So I think if you start here and you're on the right track, you're on the right track, my man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Um, as we close out, what's coming up for WBQP? If you speak to I guess the local Pensacola and those who are tuned into you, what's coming up for WBQP? If you just let us know.
When you saying coming up, in what respects you mean? What we look forward to in the future?
Yeah, if you will, or just anything you have immediately coming up for people to look out for who are followers and fans.
I what I want folks to do with WBQP is that we got an all black network, a 24/7 black network. It has black news on it. Okay, that and
Mhm.
news from our perspective. They need to look at that. Have black sports. Okay, black college sport. We do all the HBCU college games, football, basketball. If you want to know something black, we got they got game shows and comedy stuff on the Grill Network. And
Mhm.
the Grill Network not only is black owned, Byron Allen on the Grill Network. So we need to
Yep.
look out for those kind and support those kinds of medias and look forward to WBQP. Is there's no reason now that anybody can't get us because you can get us on, like I say, you can get us on Roku, you can get us on Fire Stick. I think it's Apple TV. You can get us on. You can get us on your mobile apps. Okay, if you got a tablet, if you got any cell phone anywhere in the world, you can get us on there, or you can get us on internet TV, or you can go to my website and get us. It's just so many ways that you can get us today on for WBQP. We also is on in the Birmingham area too, for with another television station on. So since TV station has now multiple channels, we have an opportunity to get stations on another channel. Like we was on channel on we're also on channel 53.4 at WPAN TV. So that's what we're doing. We're expanding the brand. Uh man,
Mhm.
that's what we're gonna I want to trumpet, like Trump don't own them, but he got his name on everything. So we can we
Yeah,
can we can brand it. So
yeah.
so that's what we're doing with WBQP now. So we can reach the world, and we are
Okay,
reaching the world.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, again, as we creep up on the officially hit an hour, thank you so much for coming on to the show. As I said, when I read about the story about you and Mr. Hill in the newspaper, I was the immediate thought. As soon as I read it, I called you. I mean, as
Okay.
soon as I read that last sentence, I called you right there while I was fresh on my mind because I was like, I gotta get him on the show because your history has to be known. You know, for
Okay.
some of the younger people who just may not know, may see you on Roku, but may not know that story of how you got to that level. I
Right.
just wanted
Yeah.
to bring you on here so that they can know the full trajectory. That just not a guy that just popped up on Roku a few years ago. That he's had the full journey
Right.
and has been come to this. So thank
Yeah.
you. I mean, this, like you say, this will be on the internet 2 years and not 3, 5 years. Somebody can pull this interview up and learn about your history and what you did and what you're doing and where you're going, and someone can be inspired to follow in your path and, like you say, take over WBGP and take it to the next level. Like one
Right.
thing I said on Facebook a couple of days ago that Sam Walton died in April 1992, but
Hmm.
Walmart didn't stop because their leader died. They gave him his
Exactly right.
respect, his salute, and the board of directors went back to work Monday morning thinking how we can dominate and take Walmart to the next level. And Walmart is here and Sam Walton is in the ground, don't know what's going on, but someone, like you say, that plan of succession, they kept Walmart going. So
Ca-
I,
Can
I,
I
I
tell
would
you a
love
quick
that.
story about? Can I tell you a real quick story about that? I know you got to go. I want to tell you a real
No,
quick
no,
story
no.
about that. And
Yes,
just now,
yeah, absolutely.
I think it's
Absolutely.
after
Go ahead.
when I was in grad school, right? And
Hmm.
and I majored in business. We had actually that was back in the late 70s, early 80s. Okay, we actually had a
Hmm.
case study on Walmart. Okay, at that time, Walmart. Think about this for a minute. Was only in little small towns, like the Piggly Wiggly. It was in only little
Yep.
small towns. Okay,
Yep.
but they had a vision. They had a vision. I never
Hmm.
forget this in the class. They had a vision. Their vision, and they were stated. So we're intending to put Sears out of business, and
Mm.
we laughed about
Wow.
that. We laughed about that in the class. So now hell
Wow.
they. But look at
Little
them now.
Walmart had that vision. Wow.
Little Walmart had their vision, and look where is Sears now? Where's Walmart's
Oh,
now?
on
If
top.
I leave no message with you, don't let anybody, don't let anybody deter your dream. Okay. And
Hmm.
if you got a dream, whatever you want to do, folks told me I was crazy. I couldn't have a television station. There ain't no such thing as a television station for a poor man, let alone a black man. You can't do it. Well, don't
Hmm.
be defined by somebody else's thoughts, okay? Go ahead
Hmm.
and do what you need to do, and don't let anybody stop you. If you got to go, just like Walmart. Walmart wouldn't be the conglomerate it is today if the leaders had just gave up and said only just going to stay small in small towns. So that's what
Hmm.
I would leave it with.
Very, very key. Well, brother, thank you a million times, man, for coming on board. I definitely recommend everyone to check out WBQP. He's on social media. If you're on Roku, Fire Stick, download that app, WBQP-TV 12. Definitely tune in. As you say, he has 24 hours programming. He's affiliated with Griot, so you can watch the HBCU on the weekend. So I mean, it's so much content that will you will find, and it will be enjoyable to you. So definitely check him out. And with that, brother, if you don't have anything else to say, we'll go ahead and wrap and conclude this interview.
Oh well, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, I'll be speaking to you. I'll see you around town.
All right, and thank you, Mustafa. We appreciate you. Okay.
No problem. Be blessed. All right, family. Thank you. That concludes and wraps up our great interview with Mr. Vernon Watson, the founder and head of WBQP. I pray and hope that you found this interview enjoyable. I pray and hope that you found some nuggets of wisdom and some things that you can take from it and run with it. And if you're trying to start your own media platform, that he gave you some tips and some actionable steps where you can create your own WBQP, if you will, create your own internet broadcast, your own Roku, your own internet radio, because we're living in that time where the barriers have been destroyed, where anybody and everybody can get online. If you got your smartphone, you got Wi-Fi, you got 5G, the floor is yours now, that we can be our own spokesperson and really tell our stories. We're not restricted where the media would not let us say things, or if we get on TV we couldn't say this, where we can set our own platform and say whatever the hell we want to say because we're free now. So check out Mustafaa Talks Tech. If you're on Facebook and we're not connected by chance, go to Mustafaa Talks Tech, my page, and connect with me, like, share, and communicate with me. If you're on LinkedIn and you're watching this and we're not connected by chance, go ahead and subscribe to me and follow me on LinkedIn. If you watch this on YouTube, subscribe to me, like, share this interview, share some of the other videos, because I'm just about putting information in. As I said, tech is our future. And as long as I have this program, we're going to talk about tech and talk about how we as people can implement tech into our lives and make tech a guiding point for us so that we can be successful. The enemy can't stop us if we know how to use this tech successfully. So get ready to tune out, everyone. Have a great, blessed evening, and I'll see you on another go round. Peace.